The October 2024 Visa Bulletin is here. We're going to be talking today about what that means, what to do next, and what to expect in the coming months. My name is Emily Sumner. Welcome to Live at Lunch. Just a friendly note, just a note that this particular session is pre-recorded. I will be checking the comments for any questions. So if you have any questions about this topic or about anything relating to family-based or employment-based immigration law, feel free to drop a question in the comments and we will help if we can. So as I said, the October 2024 Visa Bulletin is here. It was published actually a couple of weeks ago, and typically the October Visa Bulletin is really exciting, meaning typically the dates advance significantly, at least in a lot of categories or some categories at least. And the reason for that historically is because October 1st is the first date, the beginning of the fiscal year for USCIS and Department of State. That means it's a fresh, clean slate in terms of visa availability, meaning green card availability, and usually the dates advance a lot. However, if you have looked at the October 2024 Visa Bulletin, you will probably note that there's not nearly as much forward movement as we would have hoped. It may not be a surprise. We all know that there's a lot of demand for green cards, so I personally am not overly surprised, but it's still disappointing nonetheless that there's not a lot of forward movement. You can compare the dates, of course, from the September Visa Bulletin. It's still available online, and the October 2024 Visa Bulletin. So I'm not going to go through category by category. I will say in general, within the family-based context, the F2A category is one that has moved some. There's been some forward movement in some of those categories. And in the employment-based classification, the EB3 classification has also seen some forward movement. Not significant forward movement necessarily, especially in most categories, but there is some forward movement, which is somewhat encouraging. So what do we do from here? Number one is look and see what your priority date is. So this is not legal advice, of course. I can't give legal advice on this forum. But these kind of tips are both for individuals who maybe are in the green card process and for employers, meaning HR, general counsel, just owners of businesses that work with foreign national employees, and you want to see where they are in the green card process. This is all information that we should be thinking about and looking at. So first of all, confirm what your priority date is. If you are a foreign national in the green card process, you probably have that date permanently etched in your brain. But nonetheless, confirm what your priority date is. Look, of course, at the October Visa Bulletin and see what those dates say compared to what your priority date actually is. Remember that your priority date in order to file has to be before that priority date that's listed for your particular classification and your country of birth on the Visa Bulletin. So if your priority date is earlier than the relevant priority date on the Visa Bulletin, then you can file the I-485 if you haven't already, the adjustment of status application, or know that the National Visa Center should be contacting you and asking for documents to proceed with consular processing if you're applying from overseas. It is important to know that within the family-based and employment-based context, there are two different tables. One that says final action dates, a second one that says dates for filing. Dates for filing means that the Department of State anticipates that those dates that are listed in the dates for filing table will be current within the foreseeable future. Nobody knows exactly when, but they anticipate that those dates will be current soon. So the National Visa Center and Department of State should be working on those cases to get them to a point where they're almost ready for approval so that you don't then have to wait several months to go through the whole preparation process once your priority date becomes current. Same idea applies with the adjustment of status or the I-485, which is the process of applying for a green card here in the United States. However, make sure this changes month to month so make sure you check this each month. But for October, USCIS, meaning if you are in the United States and applying for a green card, if you're eligible to apply for a green card and your priority date is current and everything, USCIS is using the table that says dates for filing. So again, that changes every month. It's important to check if your priority date is current for dates for filing, and if you're otherwise eligible to file, again, this is not legal advice, then you should probably consider filing, because you want to go ahead and get that in so that you get the interim benefits, so that you secure your place in line in terms of processing. But keep in mind that your green card, your actual green card or immigrant visa, if you're overseas, cannot be approved until your priority date is current per the final action date. So if you file, let's say that you're able to file this month per the dates for filing, that's amazing. It's progress, right? It's a big step forward, a big milestone in your whole immigration or green card journey. So that's amazing. And you should be eligible for interim benefits, meaning for a work permit and for a travel document. However, that does not mean that necessarily that your green card application is going to be approved in the next month or the next few months. There are two reasons for that. One is that it takes several months at least, if not longer, for USCIS to just process an I-485 once it's filed. The other reason is your priority date has to become current per the final action date before they can actually approve your green card. So I have had clients, every case is different, but I've had clients who submit the I-485 and then their priority dates are still current per final action, or they become current per final action in the coming months, let's say 2, 3, 6 months, and the green card's approved. I've also had clients who are able to submit the I-485 at a given time, and their priority dates don't become current per final action for years, potentially. So just know that it's amazing. Once you get to this point, it is a big milestone. It is significant. You do get certain benefits, but it does not mean necessarily that your green card is going to be approved necessarily anytime soon. It could be years going forward. Another thing to consider is, and this is true whether you're close to being able to submit the I-485 or the documents to the National Visa Center or not, make sure that your civil documents are appropriate, are the ones that USCIS or Department of State are going to accept. That means things like your birth certificate, marriage certificate, divorce decrees, police certificate, if you have to submit that, if you're filing from overseas. You can check the reciprocity table if you Google the country from which these documents are coming. So, for example, if you were born in Nigeria, just making this up, and you Google Nigeria reciprocity table, a Department of State website should come up, and it should list the exact documents that Department of State will accept, the name of the Nigerian, for example, documents that Department of State will accept. So take a look at that. Again, that's an action step that you can take whether you are close to being able to file for the green card or not. Going forward, what can we expect going forward after this October visa bulletin? One other thing that I want to say is this doesn't actually matter. I'm talking on September 30th. But you have to make sure to submit your filing within the month of October. I was going to say don't file early in September, but the opposite applies as well. If your priority date is current and you're able to file in the month of October, I recommend that you file within the month of October, because we don't know what's going to happen in November. Those dates could retrogress for your particular classification, and you could lose your opportunity, at least for now, to file. So that's something to keep in mind. Going forward, we of course don't know exactly what's going to happen. Nobody does with the November and beyond visa bulletin, but I do anticipate, I think it is possible that the dates will move forward more, perhaps. Nobody knows for sure, but I do think that's possible as they clear out some of the backlog that is there right now. So hopefully that will happen in the month of November. We'll see what happens. One final note that I want to just make note of, as I mentioned, the month of November, of course, the presidential elections are in November. One question that I've had clients ask me and prospective clients ask me over the past, I'd say, year or so, is what happens to the visa bulletin, or what's going to happen with the availability of green cards when we have a new president. And we will have a new president. It'll be a different president in January. We don't know who. But my answer is probably not much. There are potentially some things that a president could do to kind of influence the availability of green cards. But generally speaking, that's really dictated by the statute, the regulations. and by how much demand there is already pent up in the system. So it's not something that a president has direct control over. So it's not something that we anticipate seeing a lot of change in because of the person who is in office. So we'll see how things go. I hope that you found this video helpful. As I said, if you have a question, please feel free to drop that in the comments and we'll take a look and help if we can. Otherwise, if you found this video helpful, please share it with a friend or a colleague or a family member, and join us next week for Live at Lunch, Tuesday at noon Eastern. Until then, I'm Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law, serving clients throughout the United States and around the world with employment-based and family-based immigration matters. Until next time.